Let me take you back to last September. There you were, sworn in as Prime Minister in front of 6,000 people. And you promised to crack down on Jamaica's endemic crime and insecurity. Was that just empty rhetoric?
Could never be. Crime is our biggest problem. Our murder rate is just much too high. One of the highest in the world. We have to get on top of it. But it's an issue that has to be tackled from a number of different angles. There has to be tough, effective, hard policing. But it has to be hard policing that is driven by intelligence, by greater use of technology. It can't be just brute force. We have to respect human rights. And therefore it has to be very, very carefully planned and executed. At the same time, we have to tackle some of the root causes of crime. Because we're dealing with a legacy, many, many years of social neglect, of communities that have virtually been abandoned. Of people who have been made to feel that they're not part of the society.
Well, I want to talk about those social issues that underpin crime. But before we get there, I want to talk about the figures, because the figures don't lie. And you say that 8 months ago you were going to solve the problem, or at least tackle it in a new way. And in fact, since then, last week or two, we've seen 550 murders already this year, on track to be possibly the worst year ever for Jamaica.
Well, we hope that it won't be the worst year, because 2005, I think it was the record that we have had so far.
Nonetheless, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
The promises do not appear to be matched by reality.
Yes, except that the kind of crime that we're dealing with, you can't expect any overnight solution. We have to try and get on top of it. We have a new commissioner. We have a new Minister of National Security. We have
You fired the old one after just 8 months, which suggests you didn't really have a plan.
No, because of illness. Be fair. He became ill, and it's an illness that has to be taken very, very seriously. We have just completed a strategic review of the constabulary force, because this is going to be important. This is the management of the situation. And that review is just now before the Cabinet. There are some critical decisions that will be taken as a result of that review that has been undertaken. There are new measures that are being pursued. But it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of resources. It's going to take some time.
Do you trust the Jamaican police force?
There are members in the Jamaican police force that can't be trusted. This is part of our problem.
How many of them cannot be trusted?
It's difficult to put a number on it. I mean, since the start of this year, some 30 of them have been arrested for corruption. So that we are working to rid the force of those elements within it that are compromising its effectiveness and, in fact, putting its own security at risk.
But it's more than just 30, isn't it? If one reads the Amnesty International report that came out in April, one gets the picture of a police force that is fundamentally rotten.
Well, Amnesty International, of course, can afford to speak in hyperbolic terms. We can't. We have to go on the facts.
But sorry to interrupt, but
we have to put in place a program that seeks to identify those who ought not to be there, those who ought to be apprehended and punished. And that's what we're doing.
But it's not hyperbole to point out that the Jamaican police force has killed over 1,400 Jamaican citizens between the year 2000 and 2007.
Yes. And what is the government doing about it? We have brought to Parliament, or presented to Parliament just 2 weeks ago, legislation to create an independent investigative authority that will have the power to investigate instances of excess use of power, abuses by members of the security forces. That's an election commitment we had given, and that commitment we're in the process of keeping.
How many senior police officers have you fired since you came to power?
I can't fire them. Under our laws, I don't have that power.
How many senior police officers have you suggested to the authorities that can fire them should
I dare not do that either. If I did that, that's political interference. Under the Constitution, there is a Police Services Commission that has that power. A number of them have been retired within the last 12 months. But much of the decisions that are going to be taken affecting the structure and the organization rests with the strategic review that has just been completed.
So you talked to me at length earlier about the structural problems Jamaica has, which are linked to crime. And we'll talk about poverty and we'll talk about unemployment. But the fact is that when Jamaica really wants to solve a specific crime problem, it appears it can. I talk in this instance about the cocaine trafficking between Jamaica and Britain, when, in conjunction with the British police force, the Jamaican police force has stamped down on those mules that were smuggling cocaine from Jamaica, your country, into the UK. It hardly happens anymore. Yeah, how come you can do that, but you can't rid your own streets?
And we did that, and we in fact reduced the volume of cocaine trafficking through Jamaica down to 20% of what it used to be. But the difference is that cocaine and cocaine trafficking is not endemic to Jamaica. That's not something peculiarly Jamaican. That's not built up over many, many years of social neglect. The condition of our inner cities is, and that has to be tackled. We have to create hope. We have to provide opportunities for our young people. We have to wean them away from a life of crime that many of them see as a necessity for survival. You need to bear in mind as well that some of the crime that we're experiencing is linked to organized crime that is transnational, that is linked to gang activity, some of it drug-related, that takes place in Britain, takes place in the United States. It's a major problem. We do have a very effective partnership with the United Kingdom, with Britain, with Canada. But it means that we can't let up. There's never a day that we can relax our guard.